Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Okay, so I've started the recording because I think we're going to start getting into some good stuff. We want to be on the call. Okay, let me. I'm going to keep everybody. I'm going to stop. Well, I'll leave the tones for a little bit longer. We're up to our 13. And some more will come on. They usually do a little later. Okay, so just to kick off as far as for the recording, this is for the Libra Full Moon eclipse closing window moon that's happened for the spring of 2025, and it's a doozy. So as we're about to go into all this, Andrea, since I just started the recording, go back over just a little synopsis of what you just talked to, because I do want to talk to that, and it's actually really pertinent.
Okay, I guess I could start over. So, John, you had been experiencing flooding up where you are in Kentucky. And instead of, I guess, going into a state of like praying and really kind of just blessing the land and all of the people around you and everyone that was experiencing it, Spirit took me in a different direction and really started to show me all of the ritual work and the spell work and the voodoo that had been done to a lot of the water. And it started up where you were, and then it started pulling me down the Mississippi into New Orleans and then into the Gulf of America, and how it had been done to really keep us in a lower vibrational state of fear around the water, a fear around the hurricanes and the tornadoes and the flooding and the levees breaking. And it really just went really far back into the collapse of Atlantis. And just start to clear a lot of that from the land so that we can actually rebuild a new earth on land that's not overwhelmed and overtaken from spell work from, oh my gosh, I got like from the Aztecs, like really, really old spell work.
That's an awesome place to start this. And it's interesting you're taking into that, because it really speaks to part of the journey that we're on right now, and I'm going to explain why you actually had that, why it came as an imprint that way. I think for the beginning, I'm going to leave the call open so you guys can respond a little bit. We're going to do it a little different today, just because I have a feeling we may want to be a little bit more participative if you guys want to. Of course, there's no push to it, but there's something about with this energy. Okay, so let me go back to clarify a little bit before we get back to Andrea with that water thing. So we've gone through this eclipse portal. The eclipse portals are always huge. They are 6-week windows. You have a moon that opens it up, and then you have the first eclipse. It's either solar or lunar. Sometimes they flip-flop back and forth depending on a lot of factors. But anyway, this one was a full moon at the beginning, and then a new moon in Aries for the second eclipse, and now we're having a full moon in Libra to close it out. So there's always 6-week windows that's very active for the eclipse, opening, then the actual eclipse window for 2 weeks, and then the other. Now, the reason, Andrea, that you're getting this water thing, and a lot of people are getting the water, Pam Gregory talks about this a lot. A lot of people are talking about the water. It's because of Neptune. Neptune has been in Pisces, which is already very water anyway. You've got Poseidon. You've got all these dark images that we have had regarding the water journey as a collective humanity for a very long time. And Neptune has just finished up with that. It came into Aries on March the 30th. We're now on April the 12th. But it's this first full moon, which full moon, huge tides, huge, all this energy, but it's also closing the eclipse window. The other thing, Venus has just turned direct today. literally right after the moon. Actually, I think it happens like coming up during the fall. It's also one of the reasons why, on an energetic level, we are feeling just slammed. Full moons are already big anyway. This, as far as full moons go, they say this is a small moon. It's some sort of pink moon or something I was reading about.
Yes.
But the significance to this one is because it's closing the eclipse window. And Neptune is just now still sitting at that 0 degrees of Aries. So Neptune also represents oceans. Pam has been saying this for months, that this particular time period, this year and next year especially, but basically all of the next 14 years while Neptune is in Aries, we're going to be dealing with oceans, any bodies of water, anything like that. So what's happening is, as Saturn is going to approach the end of Pisces, of course Pisces is that Poseidon. There's all that oceanic presence. Okay, so if you look at it from a multidimensional standpoint, the Earth is 70% water. We are 70% water. The emotional body that we feel and the way we process our emotions and everything else is through the water. It's very conductive. So as we have all of this solar energy hitting the Earth, it's hitting the water. So it's conducting all of this, like all the adamantine particles that are coming in and hitting us, it's hitting the water. So it's hitting us, but it's also hitting the Earth. So it's changing both from the inside out. It's almost like, I wouldn't put it like a microwave kind of thing, but it's radiating. So anytime you radiate something, you're causing it to grow. It's one thing where, I don't want to get anybody, in the medical world all pissed off, but when you're radiating cancer cells, you're blowing them up. You're not killing off cancer. And I'm not going to get here to argue with anybody on that kind of thing, but I mean, this is part of the upside down world we're giving up. And so as we attempt to make sense of what's happening, Neptune is beginning this whole new thing. So it's making us face the deepest aspects of the trauma that we carry within our multidimensional body, which is held in the water part of us.
In the water part of our body.
That's how we
also, the spirit also, see, and I kept getting its fear. So once we went through and cleared the water, and there's a lot of the ritual and satanic and the voodoo stuff that had a stronghold in New Orleans, that it's the blood of the people that die, and it's feeding this, those entities and those guys that crave that. Then Spirit took me in. There were tunnels, and I don't know if anybody knows this, under the cathedral that we went in, we cleared. So there's a lot of fear around all that. And then I was shot up into Colonial Williamsburg, Virginia, to start clearing fear from the war, the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
This was literally like 30 minutes.
But
of my time.
When you go into multidimensional awareness, you can be taken to these places. I mean, this is how
right.
It's worked with us all these years, because
everything's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So I mean, so on a personal level, and I'll explain it from this standpoint, because everybody on the call, almost everybody, has had sessions with Judith. So you understand from the way she's worked with you on a soul level to assist you in clearing your own blockages and places you were stuck in. I mean, all of us have had these experiences. So what's happening now, we're going through a massive clearing with regards to anything that we can release and let go of. And, of course, full moons are released, and all this stuff is around water. And because Neptune is sitting here, and here's the other part to this. This moon is at 23 Libra. The opposition of that is 23 Aries. Chiron is sitting at 23 Aries. So this moon is in opposition to Chiron. Chiron represents our individual and collective wounding. So we're being taken into the moon is shining light into any place where your soul is ready to start to go in and give that up. Now, depending on the progression of the soul, there's a lot of people all over the planet. I mean, Lightworkers have been doing this for years. But now, because it's representing the collective in Aries, it's taking us all into this deep journey. This is Neptune. Imagine Poseidon, and it's going to be, let me see, Neptune, I think it's a 14-year journey through Aries. Imagine that we're all going to be, in the Poseidon, adventures of the sea. And there's all this dark underworld that has to be dealt with. And so Neptune's at the beginning degree. It is. But Chiron is the individual wounding, but the collective wounding. Now, so all those things that you just said, and obviously, I mean, they were just a snapshot of moments in humanity where we've gone into these things. But you mentioned the Aztec times. You've talked about New Orleans. You talked about Williamsburg. These are all traumatic things that have happened in the timeline of humanity within the progression of where we were at those moments of time. And you see that this is the other thing that's happening. We're having a continually progression breakdown on timelines because they don't exist. They never did exist. And that's part of what, Neptune and Saturn were doing going through Pisces. And so they're breaking apart. Saturn is structures. Neptune is the dream. Now, the higher and lower part of Neptune, the higher part is the highest divinity dreams. The lower part of Neptune represents the delusion. It represents the false identity. It represents all of the stuff that was miscreated thought forms and energies, you see. So the reason your soul was brought into all of those things was to assist in releasing those. Now, depending on where each person on the call is, and it makes perfect sense. That's why I asked you to repeat that, at the beginning, because it was a perfect segue into what's happening energetically. Now, here's the other thing. So since we're all this water energy, the earth is all that water energy. We're literally getting cleansed and purged through oceanic presence with the elemental particles. So, everything's a frequency. We've talked about this many times. As we raise in our own individual frequencies, we are going to continually shift into higher perceptions of reality. And, I mean, they're all talking about it in their own ways. Maybe everyone uses their own language. But the more we shift internally, it's an internal event. The more you do that internally, you are creating the external world around you in a higher vibrational frequency. That's going to mean relationships will fall away that no longer match where we are internally. And this all has to be, it all has to do with heart-based reality. The deeper you are immersed in your own heart, you're blended in with the cosmic heart of God. Okay? All this adamant particles that are coming in, they're coming from the great central sun, the great central sun, so on and so forth, the center of the Milky Way. It's literally it's a purification process that we have never been through in this particular lifetime. Now, I mentioned in last couple calls about Barbara Hand Clow talking about the ending of the Kali Yuga age. Now, depending on who you listen to, of course, I mean, they talk about that. It's not one day. As a general rule, these transitions between the ages, especially the yugas, those are 24,000-year cycles, and the transition, I would say, happens like over 100 years, and we're in the middle of that transition. So when we're human, in this very, I know it's very, it can be very challenging, but so it's like as humans, we have this limited aspect of how we perceive reality because we have the box. Every single human being is a boxed-in version of reality. That box is configured and based on what we are taught it's through the cultural inheritance, the stories, it's the constant stories. The stories keep us in the limitation. Then, of course, you've got the genetic inheritance, the ancestral inheritance. All of those things you experienced between Aztecs and all those worlds came to, that's part of your genetic inheritance. When you were feeling, and it all had to do with water. And the other part, you were talking about the Mississippi
blood,
River,
which is water.
Yes. And so the significance of all of this flooding, especially in the United States, it's all about purification. Everything is, I mean, and I've said this, the last several calls, and I hate to be repetitive on it, but it's almost like we can't repeat it enough because it really is the name of the game. It's purification. And it really represents the Christic energy of the way the religions took Jesus as the Jesus story. They claimed it for their own, the patriarchy, and went through purification. Easter, you've got all these kinds of things. Easter's coming up. I mean, it's literally, yes. I mean, my birthday's on the 18th next week on Good Friday. My dad's all excited because he's read the Bible 3 times. Our birthday's on Good Friday. I'm like, yeah. I mean, we've had an Easter birthday here or there, but what's interesting, and the astrology of next week goes into a whole other ball of wax, but what we're in this purification that we've not lived through in like eons of time. And when you go through the procession of the planetary stuff, and almost every astrologer has said they have never seen astrological configurations like we are living through right now. We've never seen it. And they really are kind of like almost at a place of how do you articulate this? Because we're all feeling our way around for this, And so as we go into oceanic presence, and so and the only way you can go into this is to be extremely heart-centered, and you allow your soul and spirit to open up, and then spirit works through each of us as we go through the continued soul progression. And what's going to happen is it's going to go exponentially fast. So it's all speeding up because the timelines are collapsed. Now, when you look at the external world of form, you're still going to have people attempting to project into the news cycle the same way they always did. It's like rinse and repeat and find the most awful 30 minutes of news you can project out. Find one puff piece at the end, but that's been the news cycle for the United States for 100 years, and it was all developed. I mean, with the Rockefellers and J.P. Morgan and all that. I mean, they purposely did this. If you go back and look through all the conditioning, those who control the narrative control the population, but it also creates the limitation. We have been living in such deep limitation for so long, and that's over. They know it's over. They're really worried about that. They don't know what to do with it. But that's the only reason you can give for why certain people that would normally have been in power just sit around and do nothing, whether it's political figures, whether it's business people,
church,
but even human beings. Church, yes, but it happens on all sorts of levels and layers, you see, because the systems, and this goes back to Pluto and Capricorn that we had from 2008 all the way through November of last year. I mean, we're still fresh with Pluto and Aquarius, and that's a 20-year journey. Now, depending on how you want to interpret Aquarius is the water bearer. It's an air sign, but the actual phonetics, the frequency, aqua is water. So from my feeling with it, and I mean, different astrologers talk to different things, but it does represent a water frequency. So
Aquarius represents the collective too. It's a collective sign.
Absolutely. So it's kind of like I look at Aquarius as, of course, they always had the time of Aquarius, and we had that in the 60s. But we really are living it now because Pluto of transformation is going to be in that for 20 years. Now, here's the next part to this. So Aquarius is 60 degrees away from Aries. which means for the next 20 years, Aries is the I am presence. It represents who the I am presence of every human being on the planet. But Pluto in Capricorn for the previous 16 years was squaring our I am presence of Aries, which meant it was squaring my entire existence. It was a bitch. I'll just say that. In Aquarius, it's going to be sextiling. So for the next 20 years, everything in Aries, our entire I am presence, individually and collectively, is going to have opportunity aspects of transformation coming from Pluto. Now, that's a single aspect. It gets complicated when you have the other planets aspecting it coming from the other signs, because you're still going to have your squares, you're going to have your trines. Trines are really flowing energy, though, and we do have a lot of those. But you're also going to have semi-sextiles, which means they don't see each other, kind of, sort of. But oppositions are still rough. Conjunctions, it can be either good or bad. But we're also learning to not place a value of good or bad on anything, because nothing is good or bad. I mean, that's a story that we're placing a value on something, and that's what creates the limitation. And this is part of the habituation we're giving up. We're giving up the need to project a value on what we're perceiving and how we're.
Don't we have a yod or something this weekend?
There's a huge yod, and the moon. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the moon is actually the small part of the yod, and so it's creating this energy. It's kind of like a point energy. So the opposition of the moon, like I said, is Chiron. And then at 23 degrees, and that's in Aries. So if you go to 23, 24 degrees of Taurus, which is going to be just right over there. Let me see what's over there. That's Uranus. And then 25 degrees the other way, or to 23, is basically where you've had Saturn and Venus and all this other stuff is working from Pisces. But you've also got all that energy going all the way to the end of Pisces. They're still all bottlenecked there. Mercury or Neptune has gone back over into Aries, but the other planets are all still lined up at the end of Pisces, finishing up all the work they've been doing. You've got Mercury there, just finished up from retrograde. Venus just finished up retrograde. This is and the Mercury retrograde was in the Venus retrograde. So what happened was we had this huge. That hasn't happened in a long time. Let me see. Does somebody have a TV on or something? I may have to go ahead and mute us.
It's okay. I'm taking over the conversation anyway.
Well, no, it hasn't taken over anything. It's been perfect. I'm going to go ahead and mute, though, so we can just keep it quiet. Okay. So now we'll just go into the lecture mode of it. But no, Andrea, thank you. It was perfect, for leading us into this, because what's happening is Mercury's retrograde was encapsulated within the Venus retrograde. That's not happened in a very long time. And for those to be at the end of Pisces, it's a big deal, because it's the end of the zodiac. It's the end of the line, individually and collectively. So we've had this huge deep dive. Venus is what we value. It's what we love, how we love, all of these things materially, but also through an aspect of the heart. But Mercury is that communication. So the communication retrograde was within what we value and how we love and all of these things. They were working with us on the emotional Venus and mental Mercury levels of our own awarenesses. So we did emotional and mental deep dives. Pisces is spirituality. Pisces is the expression of how we view ourselves as aspects of God. And we just had huge retrogrades with that. And they're all at the end. Now, Mercury and Venus are going to go into Aries, back into Aries here shortly. I forget the dates for each, to follow Neptune. So Neptune, the new dream, has come into Aries. But it's fresh. And on that 0 point, it is very intense. Now, at the beginning of the call, actually, I guess before I recorded, I was mentioning, we're asking how each other are, but it's so intense. I'm getting hit personally because I have 0-degree Chiron at the beginning of the zodiac. It's the primordial wounding of humanity. It's the core wound that we come in with when we go into separation from our God expression. And it's one reason I've been hit so hard. And another part of it is that I've been trying to look at my own foods. I mean, what am I eating? Is my food supporting? Is it not supporting me? I have felt like so exhausted I could just pass out sometimes. I mean, today I could even hardly function. The reason that's getting hit is because my natal Chiron, progressed Chiron does not move except like for a whole lifetime. It's moved 2 degrees in my whole lifetime of 56 years. So it lets you know that your wound is there for your entire life. Whatever incarnation you're in, that's the energy you're going to be working with. So, but as Chiron is aspecting at 23 degrees, the transiting Chiron, it is getting hit by this moon exactly right, literally as we're in this call right now, at like 8:30 p.m. tonight. Venus goes direct at this time. Anytime you have planet stations, they're big deals. So you got a Venus station on top of this moon. That's why I said it's almost like the energy of this is worse than any eclipse. For me, it's even worse because 23 degrees of Aries, which is the opposition point of the moon, where Chiron is sitting on my progressed Saturn. It's the work I came here to do. I mean, it's my structure. It's blasting me from the inside out. And Neptune sitting at 0 degrees with my personal Chiron. I mean, I feel like I'm just being filleted and laid out, to pasture. It's a very challenging energy, and I've had to just really sit with this and go in. I stay in my heart, but the other part I wanted to go in with this, and it's really important. Okay, so we're doing all this work on multidimensional levels, and yet we're still dealing with the part of ourselves that is the third dimensional body and everything else that has to stay healthy. I mean, we want to keep healthy body, mind, spirit, emotion, all of it. To do that can be challenging because of the fact we have been bombarded with poisons for past my entire lifetime. All of this goes back into Nazi Germany of the 30s, and it's when Pluto was in those really nasty aspects, creating, you have the nuclear and atomic crap. I mean, we have totally spent, almost 100 years creating the worst distortion of the material world that we could possibly come up with. And I've said this many times before. You've got, so many souls on this planet Earth that are here, and they're in free will choice. Now, depending on how many of them have taken their power, many of them have not taken their power. They allow other people and other entities to run them. And when they do that, they're allowing someone else to hijack their presence. And when you do that, you're letting someone else or some entity by proxy take over your body and your life force. Now, I bring that up for this particular reason. I've mentioned this before. Judith did all this work with us for years, and yet she still manifested disease pattern. And she and I discussed this a lot. She created the cancer, and this was in genetics with her father. But she was attempting to go through and just do all this deep work on transcendental meditation and bring in spirit and shift just through presence. And I'm not saying humans can't do that. I am saying that we're also, as long as we're here in this 3D body, we still need to attempt to find ways to keep the physicality as healthy as we can. Now, I bring that up because of this standpoint. My hormonal levels are just screwed between, cosmetics, between, the crap added in foods, between, stuff in the environment. All of these neurotoxins are really it is literally just blasting, especially in the United States, but also Western cultures, because we're supposedly, industrialized countries. We're supposedly more prosperous. We're supposedly doing all these wonderful things. But yet, when you look at us, we're a very sick population. And you have the upside-down medical community. Oh, you're supposed to go to a doctor. But all they do is create more customers through the pharmacology of killing everybody through toxic drugs. Pharmacology never solved a problem for anybody, I can assure you. If you go in and you know how to rebalance yourself and gain your health back, you would need a doctor. So what I've had to do, and I'm suggesting this for any of you that have some way that you feel like you're out of balance, your health is just worn out, you feel like you just are loose ends, I've gone in. There's different ones that are all over Facebook. So I'm not I can suggest them. You go look at them, see if they feel right for you. But the big one is Daniel Pompa, who did a lot of work on the cell. He understands the cell inside and out, how it gets degraded, the receptors are screwed up, how certain vitamins and minerals can't come into the cell. All of this leads to autoimmune diseases. Now, Dr. Josh Axe, and then there's a chiropractor that I'm actually working with out of Chicago that actually was Josh Axe's roommate, he told me, when Josh was learning all this. Josh had to go through these some awful disease himself pattern to go find these answers, and now that's what he offers. All of this is functional medicine. You've got Dr. Mark Hyman. You've got, I don't know. There's just several of them out there. But what they do is they offer these. Stephen Cabral. Actually, I've ordered the tests from Stephen Cabral for one of the tests is about the minerals and metals. I've got to find out what's happening in my body with regards to toxicity and what I need to do to balance it out. And I've also got another test, which is the Candida, vitamins, and the metabolic panels. And what they do, these tests, I forget which ones these are, but the tests can go between like 50 to 100 biomarkers, and they find out what's happening in your body, what you're low in. Most people are very low in magnesium, selenium in a lot of cases for different people, definitely vitamin D, 3 deficiencies. And when you're taking D, you need K with it. And you also need those when you're taking magnesium. Then, of course, with magnesium, you've got 7 different magnesiums. So everybody's on a debate about what do you do. I'd got magnesium citrate as a powder last time, and I was okay, but I've since read from a lot of them. Dr. Stephen Berg is another one who's got a lot of YouTube videos. Every one of these doctors are talking about functional medicine and how you go and clean, you heal the imbalance in the body and the gut. And that's what I'm having to do. But my testosterone is at like 122. So my hormones are way out of whack. And it's part of why I'm exhausted. It's why I have no energy. And yet, even as I say that, I can go through parts of the day and I can feel so exhausted where I can't move. Then there'll be another part of the day, and Andrea, you'd mentioned this, different ones of you have mentioned this in these last calls, these last couple of weeks. And thank all of you, for participating in those calls, because I think we got a lot from each other. But it's like the energy field within each of us can totally shift on a dime. Joyce, you mentioned this. It's like, and that's what we're going through. It's a seesaw of energy field. And in 1 minute, we can be taking in all these adamantine particles, which are clearing, okay, so that these are the phenomena of the body, that these are all the phenomena things as this energy hits to purify, because it's a purification. At the same time, though, when we're in the lull of it, you can feel like you're dying. This again, and I've said this, for several calls now, we're going through the most profound death and rebirth process that we've ever gone through, individually and collectively. Now, as a general rule, most humans are scared to death of death. We don't like the concept of death because we think, we're not here. Well, there's really nothing to fear, because all that happens is the the actual soul, just gets exhausted from the physicality of everything and says, okay, I'm ready to go back. We're never separate from God or the all that is, whatever you want to call that. There's no separation. Now, if you're consciously working with your soul and spirit here in this particular moment of time, then you're going to be acting in the highest capacity, and spirit can work with you, I think, in the highest capacity. And part of this for me, because I've not yet put out what I'm doing with this astrology, because I've not gotten the internal go yet. I mean, I think it's coming up like very, very soon. I was waiting for these energies, though, to really clean and balance themselves out before I put it out into the field. And here's the reason for that. If you put out a new creation, even though, I mean, yes, we're in these new creations. They're talking about, it's a new dream. All of these things are true. At the same time, if you've got the major personal planets, that we've been retrograde, I mean, Mercury, we've not had a Mercury retrograde like this they're talking about for a very long time. So that was Mercury, I'm not talking Mercury, Mars. Mars is our energy. It's how we're expressing in the world. It's your action. It's what gives you the impetus to go. It's that creative force. Venus is also the creative force, though. So you get the creation dynamic from Venus, but Mars goes and gets it for you. And that's why you've got Venus and Mars that always work together in that way. Mercury's the communication about it, and then, of course, you've got your sun. That's how you want to express yourself. So all these other planets are working in how you're going to put yourself in the world. And all of that has just literally been put through the rinse and wringer and totally put out to pasture, and there's a new way of expression coming online because of these eclipses. That's how powerful it is. I mean, I hate to be dramatic about it, but all I'm doing is really kind of articulating in my own unique way what Spirit tells me about it, and it's true. So we can articulate it through the dramatic sense to give it staying power, like to really know in our core that what we're going through can stay this time. Now, here's the other part to that. So Neptune's in Aries, Venus is about to be there, Mercury's about to be there, Mars is going pretty good. Mars is going to be leaving Cancer. So Mars in Cancer is squaring Aries on the other end. So it's really challenging. And Cancer, at the same time, that's in a water trine to all of the planets at the end of Pisces right now. So you've got some flowing energy from that sense, but it's also squaring everything in the I am presence of Aries. So it's still a very challenging energy until it gets into Leo. And in Leo, it's going to be then trining this new Neptune and everything at the beginning of Aries. Saturn is going to come in May and into Aries, and it's going to give structure to the new dream. And they're both going to be at 1 to 2 degrees of Aries, until like around October, November. They're going to retrograde back in Pisces at the back end for a last cleanup, individually and collectively. So whatever you've got going on right now, these last 3 months, you're going to have to go back and feel into it one more time. Any last little, it's kind of like moving out of a house, except it's not just a house. It's kind of like a mansion. If you've had a lot of square footage, if you ever moved out of a house and you had a pack-ratted house, and you're like, oh my God, I can't handle moving all this stuff. This is kind of like you're going to have to go back in to that, your previous residence and go clean out all the rest of the shit that you thought, oh, I was just going to leave that for the new owner. So that's going to happen at the end of this year and at the beginning of next year, just for 2 or 3 months. But once we go into next year, we're really going to solidify and give form to the new dream, and that's Saturn. And Saturn is a 2.5 or so year transit through the sign, so it will be through Aries of about 2.5 years, coming up. So that's not so bad. But Neptune's going to be this long beginning of dream sequence for all of us. But at the same time, we're going to have Pluto is going to be sextiling our existence in Aries. So that's workable energy. It's opportunity. It's not as flowing as the trine energy, but it's still it's better than having squares. It's not quite as difficult. We'll still have moments, when something comes up, different aspects from the other planets, that pop in, just as they do regularly through the year. They'll bring challenging moments here or there, but the biggest thing that I feel that's happening, and I mean from what a lot of astrologers are reading, and I sent out a lot of information to you guys if you've been able to read the email this last time. The biggest thing I think is happening is letting go of the old delusions, the old dream, and the old reality. And again, this is probably going to be a 20-year process in the I am presence of Neptune. But Saturn going through it, that's the structure. So I think that the biggest part of it will shift within the next 2.5 years. But anything that's been hidden, that's what Neptune and Saturn, all these things, Pisces is that hidden stuff. Now, the other part to that, and I mentioned this before in some of the calls, oscillating Lilith. They all talk about Black Moon Lilith, and that's the representation of, the Adam and Lilith story and Eve and all this kind of stuff. And, Lilith was supposed to be the divine counterpart for Adam and the Adam-Cadmon body, but that didn't work out. And then you had the patriarchy that wanted to say that Adam was created from, Eve was created from Adam's rib. Well, it basically was created to diminish women, to diminish diminish the divine feminine. Bottom line, that's what it was created for, and it was created through the religion. They stuck it in the books and said, "Oh, this is esoteric." Well, it's not esoteric. Nothing births without the divine feminine. Nothing. So, anybody that understands the basic human evolution, that's creative energy. You have the masculine and divine feminine to create more life. So it doesn't get more simple than that, I don't think. But Black Moon Lilith, many astrologers, talk about this, the averaged out point, and they'll refer to that in your birth chart. They don't talk about Lilith as much. They talk about the bigger planets, and I think I may have mentioned this in the other call, but I'm going to repeat it now because we've got 20 people on the call. So we are going into a bigger group. Everybody's feeling they wanted to know what's going on right now. So I'm going to go over this with Lilith again, just to really get this in, because to me, divine Lilith represents, and from a lot of things I've read, the divine feminine. She represented the divine feminine for humanity. And when the Lilith energy was, screwed over, she really was kind of like the scorned, woman. She didn't get to provide the divine counterpart with Adam and create, in the deepest capacity, within divine human. And so her path, and I charted this path, and I'm going to actually be sharing this here shortly too with a lot of astrologers, but it kind of snakes across the sky through the zodiac. And last year she was going through between Leo and Virgo and into Libra. This year she's Libra, Scorpio, and into Sagittarius. And as she goes through Scorpio, she's going to be a Scorpio most of this year. Scorpios, for those of you that understand the Scorpio, it's the Scorpio, it's the sting, it's the darker sex function, it's all the miscreated, hidden stuff. It's the secretive. It's all this stuff. All of that is being aspected pretty intensely through quincunxes of everything in Aries. And so, and because Lilith goes back and forth, she's in constant forward and retrograde motion, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And she's doing it in every single human being's life, but she's doing it in the collective as well. So you've got this big dance happening. So I also think that's the reason why this year is going to be one of the huge ones for the dissolution of anything that's been hidden from us, either intentionally or unintentionally. And part of it, humans like to be like ostriches. We like to put our heads down in the sand. We'd rather not. It's just easier to not look. It's like, well, that's uncomfortable. I don't want to see that. Or, that's all dark. Oh, I just want to be love and light over here. Well, that's nice, but there's no separation. Now, like Pam Gregory talks and some of the, several of the others, you do create what you want to whatever you're focusing on is what you're going to create. So we do absolutely want to take care of how we articulate. In other words, we speak into our reality because it's spelling for a reason. You're casting a spell, as you say things. And it's not just when you say things to someone else, as you tell the universe. And this can just be talk that comes up in your head, but it's unconscious talk. So part of this soul progression journey is to recondition your brain, to recondition your heart. If your heart's in some place where you're still stuck in the past, you don't want to be there. We do not want to stay anywhere in the past. It served you. It served all of us for where it was. It also didn't exist. It did, but it doesn't. So as we have the timelines continually, dissolve and break down, we're still in the now moment. They're all pushing, just be in the now moment. All the movies, be in the now moment. TV shows, whatever, just be in the now. And there's probably a lot of songs that do that. And people say, songs are so healing. Well, the other part, is it healing to go listen to victim consciousness songs that say, poor pitiful me, I'm a victim? That doesn't serve you. I'm suggesting it doesn't serve you. You have to make a choice of yourself if it serves you. But it's like anything else, trash in, trash out. And I'm not going to place the value on any particular song. You have to go in your heart and ask yourself what's true. If you're listening to something that does not support the evolution of your soul, consider letting it go. It can be TV shows, movies, all of that cultural programming. The cultural programming is created in distortion. It supports the distorted reality. He who controls the narrative controls the population. It's not just the news cycles, it's the entertainment cycles. And I can't express that one enough. The more you can really just enjoy nature, birds singing, being out in the sun. I mean, there's so much to that, and I've got to take my advice more on that this year, for sure. But so there's this whole journey where we're all on it, especially in this country, because we're attempting to give up the poisoning. We're attempting to get ourselves healthy in the physicality. That you can eat you can eat the best stuff on the planet, but if you haven't cleaned up your mind and your heart, then those are four of the parts, two of the parts of the body. You have your mental, emotional, spiritual components that make up the physical, and then of course, you're trying to align those to the etheric body, the divine blueprint. And so as you go more toward the divine blueprint, the higher frequency of a reality you'll be able to create. And we'll be able to create from a conscious place. And it's kind of being in service to ourselves first. You can be in service to others, but you don't want to be in service to other people to the extent that it destroys your own sense of purpose and your own health, which is what I've had to really sit in with myself. I mean, I'm still attending these older people, and yet my own health is going through degradation. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, and I know a lot of people having this discussion right now with their own family, regarding, people that are aging. Do you put them in homes? Do you put them, for other people to take care of? It really has put us in a very bizarre conundrum with regards to tribe, taking care of our tribe, the ancestral tribe, genetic inheritance, whatever you. And you may say, well, my parents made poor decisions, and that's why they're where they're at. I shouldn't have to pay for their poor decisions. And that's true. You shouldn't have to pay for your parents' poor decisions. At the same time, if you can assist, not to the point where it's going to be to your detriment, that's still where you come from. We come from our parents. We're not defined by the parents. It's kind of like being in the world but not of the world. I mean, I've had to go through and just get a lot of clarification for myself regarding this. And this is part of the energy we're doing. But at the same time, we have to come up with better collective understanding of how to assist our aging and elderly population. Sadly, they have been poisoned, by everything for such a long time that the physicality has gone into such deep distortion, and they've got these, really awful disease patterns because of it. And they talk about these med beds being out. I mean, I keep hoping that those are going to be released, all the new technological advances that are going to come out. I do think that's coming. I wish they'd hurry up. They're just not doing it fast enough. But there's still a core battle for the human soul, the collective human soul. It's that polarity. It's the dark and the light, and we're still in that. And we're not in it to the extent and the dynamic that it was. And part of that is because of the fact that we've now had Neptune into Aries, and when Saturn follows, the structure will then come in. So by the end of May, we'll be feeling into what that looks like between May and October. So think about whatever you're going to be doing in your life within that time period is going to assist you in actually creating the new dream, because you'll have Saturn structure there to come help you put it into form for the next 2.5 years. So at the same time, if there's still places within you that you've yet to go in and excavate on the emotional level, the mental level, if there's places within your mind where you're still trapping yourself, and you know where those are, either consciously or unconsciously, if you have a thought that just rolls through, don't judge yourself. The worst thing you can do is go into judgment. It doesn't serve anybody. But do pay attention, catch it, and say, okay, let's nix that. Let's relieve ourselves of that. We don't need that. Don't need that. And as you continually go through and try that as a practice and catch yourself, you will basically heal the distortion that you came in with. Now, part of that is genetic inheritance. Part of it's conditioned through the culture, through our education, religious, whatever systems. But all of these things have to change for us to go into our greatest capacity of creating something new. And So, and the other part to that too, the North Node has gone back into Pisces, and Virgo, the South Node. So that's 1.5 years. It's why I say basically by 1.5 years from now, by about July next year, we're really going to be more deeply immersed into whatever it is we're creating. The other thing you kind of want to watch too right now is we talk about going into surrender. And I really do think that there's a lot of alignment that's coming forth that it's going to feel more like synchronicity. This is one of the things that we talked about a lot during the eclipse window, when we did the personal calls, for each of the nights. And, we really shared a lot of stuff. It's so nice. But it was amazing that one of the biggest takeaways I took from it was how many of you feel like you're going through synchronistic events. So let's feel into what is a synchronistic event. It's kind of like when you feel like you really want something, and it's been out of your reach, and it could be your entire lifetime. You may have been wanting to either own property or have a certain car or have a relationship of this or have a friend that did this, or maybe you wanted to move someplace, but you didn't see any way you could possibly do it. It could be a certain job. I mean, it doesn't matter what it was or has been. But if there's something in your soul that has been percolating and says, oh, please create me, and you had no idea how to create it, there's a high potentiality that's going to get created within the next year and a half. And you won't lift a finger necessarily to do it. It doesn't mean you won't co-create it by action, but it can also happen just by pure presence, because you've gone in and you feel it in your soul. And if you're deeply immersed in working with Mother, Father, God, and the entire company of heaven and spirit and what have you, and it's like you could be co-creating it even on an unconscious level, and yet if it happens, there's no shock to it because you already wrote it in show contract. Sometimes we think things are miraculous, but if something shows up, it's like it's not a miracle. You created it. So let's go into that part. Who is it within you that feels like you're in some sort of separation, that when something miraculously comes to you as a manifestation, you think, oh my gosh, that was something from God? Well, what if you were God? What if you already pre-wrote it in this lifetime and it's already in your astrological script that it was supposed to come in at this particular point of time? Do you see how powerful it can be to really understand your astrology? And that will literally be there. It'll be in the birth chart, but it will also be more in the progressed chart, because the progressed chart says where the planets are from the time of your birth, but it progresses it to this particular moment of time. So a really good astrologer that works with progressions can really give you insight and get some clarity and validation to what you either see or feel coming into your life. And so many of us go through an entire seemingly life up to a certain point, and all of a sudden something shifts, and you're like, well, I've been wanting that my whole life. Why do I have to wait so long? Part of it was because of karmic circumstances, your genetic inheritance, ancestral inheritance, because you had to do the soul growth to get to the point to match the frequency for whatever it is you wanted to come in. And if you think about it from a standpoint of, and I really don't like to do comparison. I don't think that's a good idea at all, except from the standpoint when you're looking at other souls in the world. There's 8 billion of them out there, according to who's doing the accounting, as I've said. I really don't know that there's 8 billion souls. Part of me thinks that has been really inflated by mankind to create more, there's a lot of different reasons for it. I mean, depending on the values they want to project for either money that they want to send to countries or goods or services or whatever, it sounds more dramatic. But I really don't know if we're procreating that much on the planet to, add another 15% of people within a year or two. I know people are very sexualized, but that's a lot of offspring coming out. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, there's so many souls on the planet, and if you look at a large group of humans that are living in other countries, if you look at the environments they're in, we in the United States, I know we're being poisoned, or we're being all these things that are degrading our health. We still don't live in war-torn places. We have clean water. We have food, even though it's not great. We have to be conscious in cleaning up our own sources of what we eat. We have to take responsibility for those kinds of things. But we're not in a place where the vibrational frequency is still war-torn. The environments are not polluted to the extent that they are Yeah, I mean, they've got nasty chemical rivers in China because there's no regulation for anything. I mean, they talk about regulating things here. We do need regulation. At the same time, you don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face in creating, here in this 3D world either. And I do think there's going to be a huge release in technologies. They're already out there. I mean, they always have been. If you go back and really look when things were developed, I mean, anti-gravity, that stuff was you're talking about almost 100 years ago for anti-gravity when that stuff, started coming in, and they were, reverse engineering it. But I mean, all the computers, cell phones, television, digital, I mean, it's been there. It's just now been rolled out very slowly, and it's all been for control. But they've also been doing it to attempt to put humanity into the false matrix. So my suggestion to you is to stay away from false matrix, anything. I would not put a chip in me for anything. That's just not going to happen. Yes. So anybody listening at the NSA, this is a light and love coded thing, and you're not, it's. I'm undoing your frequency, so you can't even hear it. It's not going to matter to you. I don't think they really care about us anyway. But I mean, I do think that the network itself is set up where they track every single thing. All phone conversations, it all goes to huge servers. All that data is disseminated. It's pulled through. They pull, for the keywords. I mean, they're looking for, words like murder, assassination. They're looking for any dark anything that they can find. And I'm sure I've triggered it just through those words. I mean, who knows? Okay, so let's say that the technological world operates in that way. At some point, we'll get to a place, and even I will with a call like this, I won't even have to reference any word like that because we won't even invite that into our sphere of awareness. Now, think about how powerful that would be. And we're probably being put into such sets of circumstances where we have to be that to take that great care in our choice of languaging. It's kind of like if you mention something, just putting it out into the field gives it the potentiality for it to happen. And that's how powerful we are as creators. There's plenty of books out there written on the quantum field. You've got the esoteric works. I mean, you've got all sorts of stuff that discuss all of these types of topics. So as we're in these, major new beginnings, I mean, again, this is closing the eclipse window. So we're really, from this moon tonight, is really where we've gone through the transformation. So the portal is closed in that particular way as far as an astrological observation. What isn't closed, however, and Spirit really wants to make this clear to you, as an aspect of Mother, Father, God, you're never closed off. Do not limit yourself by the astrological interpretations, because otherwise that's still just, it's a system. It's an astrological system. We can observe it because what's happening is it really does serve a function to observe the external world for the unconscious aspect of humanity that's still playing out through cause-effect reality. They're still there. They still have the free will choice to do that. Although we're really releasing cause-effect reality because we're going into immediacy. Well, that's actually already here. But that's going to be the de facto of human expression, just immediacy. And I have a feeling that's where a lot of people are going to feel like they're losing their minds. It's like if you're really mental about your world and you want to control what you're creating and you're I mean, like really micromanaging rather than consciously working with soul and spirit to allow for a highest potentiality to come to you. And we like to place a value of, magical something on it. But if it's happening to you, it's obviously something you've co-created. Nothing can come to us without our consent, either conscious or unconscious consent. But then some people say, well, does that mean everything's created that we've ever experienced? I don't know. Yes and no. And some people say it's both. I don't know. We're not going to know until we leave the physicality here and go back to the all that is, and actually get taken into the totality of the vastness of who we are as quantum expression. I don't know. And then there's the part that's the hybridized human, because we have been interbred with, reptilian, alpha draconian, the grays have messed with us. I mean, there's been so many different things that's been put out through what they call science fiction, Star Trek series, different movies, whatever. But think about this again. If someone created it and it went into a movie, then it came from somewhere. And I assure you, if it was presented as science fiction, it exists somewhere in the world. But we really are going to go into much deeper levels of awareness of the hidden world, the unseen world. People always talked about there would be a time when Jesus would come back. I do think Yeshua will come back as presence to continue to assist us in showing us how to be. I mean, it doesn't feel real to me that Jesus came here to save you. Jesus came here to show us how to be, is my deepest feeling from the whole thing. And when you feel into that, it means you have to take your power. Because otherwise, it's kind of like you're living off, the Catholic projection of go confess your sin. Sin as much as you want, just go confess it. Well, all you're doing is confessing it to people that can come back and blackmail you, which is the core of how the political system works. And that's really how all of the civilizations have worked for, centuries. They took people's power through the religion. And, so that's kind of a bigger picture, of this energy that we're working with this moon. It's extremely powerful. And I've also mentioned in a couple of the other calls that it still feels like to me, it's been communicated to me that we're going through an individual and collective bardo state. And I think there's a couple of people on the call that have not been on for this part, so I'm going to explain this just one last little quick time. The bardo state, like in like more Eastern cultures, is when your soul at the end of death has to go back through recapitulation process back to spirit. And it's like you're taken back through all the choices you've made and places where you could have made a better choice here or there and what have you, recapitulation as you go back and merge back into oneness. And so imagine we're all going through a livable bardo state. We're not going back to God and giving up the physical body, yet we're still going through a bardo state and having to go recapitulate our existence while we're alive. So in other words, we're not, having to die and go to hell or go do whatever. But what we're having to sit consciously in any and all miscreated thought forms throughout our entire existence. And Andrea, this goes back to what you mentioned at the beginning of the call. You had these feelings where you kept being brought back into other ages of awareness, Aztecs and Williamsburg and what have you, Atlantis. And all that's coming forth because and here's the deal with this. As the timelines collapse, time never really existed. We projected time out there. So everything's happening in one now moment. If we're having to go through a multidimensional bardo state or a soul recapitulation, this could feel, people may feel like they're having to relive all of the miscreated thought forms all at one time. And I think this is going to happen over a time period. I was thinking it was happening, between this Saturn and Pisces for the last 2.5 years. And I don't doubt that was part of what was happening then. And we may be coming out of that Bardo state now as we come, into Aries, with the new creations. So we may be leaving the Bardo state. I'm not really sure. I haven't got a deep feeling with Spirit where that's at yet. I still feel like that we still have to go through more of a Bardo state with Neptune and Saturn going back into Pisces. Because the North Node is still in Pisces. That's a lot of secrets. It's a lot of, the reformulation of the ending of humanity, because it's the end of the zodiac. But also with Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio, I feel like, people are going to have their past, the secrets are going to come out. And that has to be faced in the next year and a half. That's why I still feel we're going to be in Bardo state. Now, and again, this is always true all the time. It depends on where you are in the progression of soul. There are so many people on this planet that have already been woke up to that they don't have to go back to a Bardo state. I mean, they came here so crystal and pristine and clear. They came here to build the new earth. There's so many people that are here in that embodiment, and many of those people were born into awful sets of circumstances. But that's part of clearing out the old past life karma that they may have had, because they came into such clarity here that they've already walked through the fire, and so they're into the new highest potentiality of creation. And again, it depends on where you are. And it's the other reason why we really can't do the comparison game. That's the biggest, I think, impetus for us to stay in our own moment. Do not compare. It doesn't matter if your family, your friends, parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren, friends, neighbors. Stay away from comparison. For the highest potentiality, release the need to compare. There is no comparison. There's only your journey. As you sit in your deepest immediacy of a moment, that's when you're going to be taken into your highest potential of creation. I mean, like right now, I feel like I've got so much energy as I come and do this call, because Spirit has just come in and just taken over. It's like I'm in deep embodiment, from an etheric standpoint, and it feels like in all the body systems, I feel in complete union and communion with presence and God and what have you. And yet there'll be still moments where I feel so weak because of a less testosterone, a really weak testosterone hormonal level. I mean, Lord knows what else that I will find out shortly when I get these tests done. It's like it's weird. It's like we're in the land of both. We're literally in the death while we're also sitting in the rebirth. And I have a feeling those last years that Judith was in this space. She was in the death, constant death, but also in the rebirth. It was both. And really, we're always going through death and rebirth. I mean, all of the cells in the body, I forget how many trillions of cells, these functional medicine people talk about. I mean, it's like, 50 trillion. I don't know. It's a big deal. The point is, they talk about the regeneration that's already happening within our physicality right now, and the science backs that up. But they're not really articulating as much. I mean, they talk about it from the physical cellular destruction because of the poisons and toxic environments and what have you. They don't really go into it quite as deeply with regards to the emotional and mental and spiritual distortions. They look at functional medicine more from the physicality. Where I am suggesting to you, you have to look at the whole body. I mean, they attempt to go in on spiritual, but part of it's, I don't feel like they go deep enough, because there's so many places where I don't feel like they have been taught and trained to go in, where you would have mental hang-ups, emotional blockage stuff. But also you can have spiritual blockage. And depending on where you're at with all that, will kind of ascertain where you are, of course, soul progression at any time. So I know there's been a lot of data. Some of it has been repetitive, either for clarification within the dynamic that we're going through right now through the current astrology. Also because there's a couple of new callers on that I've noticed. So I really wanted to give as much of a big overview for everyone, because it's all still pertinent. And also, too, that the other part, when we're reimagining ourselves, when we're relearning who we are at our core, sometimes repetition is the best way to learn. Because as I've gone back and as I've either read certain people for the last 20 years, there'll be a lot of times where I read something that's repetitive, and it's in my core, it's in my cells, because I took it in several times. And that's one of the ways that, of course, we've taught in the United States, and actually I guess most of Eastern cultures, but actually Eastern and Western cultures probably both teach this way. It's through repetition. It's like you keep drumming in the same thing, and you take it into your heart and say, oh, that's true, And so the more we're able to do that, we're able to keep it deeply immersed, but also bring whatever it is we want to create in physicality. So, yeah, that's been a lot. So if you are feeling these ups and downs right now, that's kind of a big nutshell, but that's it's all part and parcel of why you're feeling whatever it is you're feeling right now. It's a lot. The main thing is to breathe. Whatever you can do, try to meditate. Just go into quiet stillness as much as you can at different parts of your day. Especially in the morning when you first wake up, if you can just lay there and just take 5, 10 minutes, 15, just gather yourself. Feel yourself gathering in all the adamantine particles, all of these solar flares that are hitting the planet. I mean, that's what's bringing that all in. That's just God, throwing purification energy toward the planet. If you're working with that energy on a conscious level and way, then you're allowing it to move through you. Allow yourselves to soak that in. Now, the next thing is, if you can get out and walk, get in the sun, let that sun hit your body, let it come in through the skin. The skin is the biggest organ on your body. It's going to absorb all of that particleization in, and it's going to change you, well, I would say from the inside out, but once it gets in, it can work with the cells on deeper levels. Because no matter how much synthetic vitamin D you're getting, it's not going to be a replacement for the sun. And I think that's one of the, the biggest key things we miss. But the more you can do that, the more you can take your mind into stillness, into 0 point, the better you're going to be able to be. And the least amount that you can watch of, the news cycles. I mean, it is so hard to, and I'm not saying don't know what's going on in the world. Depending on where your soul is, it is really hard to watch death and destruction constantly around the world. I mean, I will tune into certain things just because Spirit wants me to know the vastness of the of what's actually happening, as we go through collective shifts in humanity, but also within countries, because this collapse is going to be, it's a really big deal, and we're going to continue. Oh, that's the other thing. So many of you have, been concerned with the, current state of affairs in the United States, how the United States is in relationship to everything and everybody else in the world. Don't attach to what you see with regards to the political people. I don't care who they are. You can watch it. Do not attach to it. And I've said this before, and it's really true. I'll repeat this. Every single soul on this planet is doing what it came here to do, even Donald Trump. Whether you like it or don't understand it or whatever else, he's serving a purpose. He's creating a disintegration of the enslavement system. And I'm not going to place value on whether that's good or bad. I do know we have to destroy the systems that hold us in place, because otherwise we cannot build anew on the old foundation. It doesn't work. The old foundation is built in complete rot. And if you go back, the Good Old Boy Network has been operating for centuries on the planet. It's the mafia. It is so dark. It is insidious the way it's created, the way it controls and manipulates, and it has infiltrated every single system within the modern world. Everything operates because of the dark, of the creation of the dark. And yet, there's still all of the natural world that's still here, and it's not distorted. It doesn't mean they've not attempted to really distort the natural processes of the planet, and they're still doing it through, various ways. Weather modification, messing with food systems, messing with, ecosystems. I mean, it's vast. But the main thing for us to know is that the Earth itself is always regenerative. It's healing itself in many ways. There's also dwarf planets that are out there that are making big aspects that are coming in and creating new shifts in the way that Earth is doing and creating. Pam Gregory kind of talks about this a little bit. New land masses coming forth. And again, part of this is Neptune. Neptune rules all the seas. So I think we're going to continue to see all sorts of revelations come from the sea. They're going to find ways to use some of that water to be able to drink it, to remove the salination from it, to remove, plastics. All these things, and not just there. They're working on, our country, the waterways. So all sorts of things of water are coming up. Then you've got this other thing. You've got, oh my Lord, how do you want to fly a plane anymore with all the potential things that's happening? At the same time, that's fear. They want to put fear in. Flying is still one of the safest things that are out there. What they're doing is just trying to find things that may not have made the news cycle before. Are there problems with, the current aviation system? Sure. You've got aging flight, equipment. All the planes are getting older and older. But are the new creations sturdier and better? Because if you look at, new cars, new appliances, the new does not always mean better. Things used to be meant to be workhorses and stay around for a long time. And this is part of the other big change that's happening. The trade around the world, the globalization, there's a lot of shifting that's happening with that. There's dynamics behind the scenes that we've not been made aware of, but there's also dynamics that we've known, but we don't understand it because we're either not economists or we don't see bigger pictures with regards to how certain things work. The long and the short of it has always been this. the people that are at the top have always been motivated through control, greed, manipulation, and they do it through enslavement. And if you look at the things that built the United States, especially in the 50s and 60s, post-war of World War II, and even World War One and post-Depression, they created a really prosperous time in the material creation, but it's like we were building from nothing because we had so much lack because of the Depression times. We have so much material world in our space right now, and yet it's still not enough to satiate the lostness of people in the United States. Well, and even many of the European countries. But the United States is at its worst because we're so busy consuming all this plastic. I mean, if you look at Walmart and you were to really ask yourself, go into your heart and ask yourself, is that a necessary creation? And I suggest that half of what's in Walmart would not be a necessary creation, either through food sources or through stuff. There's so much just cheap plastic. I mean, we buy plastic flowers and put them on graves. I mean, think about how many, millions of pounds of plastic flowers. I mean, that's just one thing. It all that does is wash off. No one goes back and, well, a lot of people may get them and throw them away. They end up in landfills, or they get, taken up by winds and blown wherever. But plastics don't break down. I mean, that is one simple thing where, we used to cherish, live flowers. Why not cut live flowers and put those on your, loved one's grave? I mean, it will, die off, and it just goes back to spirits, and it's so much more pretty. I mean, it's gorgeous. But I mean, we've taken on such distortion. I mean, I say that as I've even bought some. I guess it hit me when I had bought some, fresh flowers to go put on my mom's and sister's graves, with the recent, birthdays and death dates and stuff. And I was like, I sat there, I was like, why did I do that? It's plastic. And again, it's that habituated process. I have to catch myself in my own habituated processes. But when I look at the bigger picture, it's like, and then what are you supporting? You're supporting basically Chinese enslavement. I mean, there's been people that talk about, that person makes $0.25 an hour. It's like, and we can't compare that to our economy because their economies are different. $0.25 may buy a lot more in China than it buys here. And if you look at the United States years ago, $0.25 used to buy a hamburger. It may buy that in China. But when $0.25 would buy a hamburger here, we were still living in prosperous times. Maybe China is living in a prosperous time. I do still feel that they are living under deep enslavement, and the conditions still have not increased, progressively to a point where it's not detrimental to their health. But we're not there to try to regulate that. The point is, I bring up all of that to let you know that we're in a vast reality system. We're in a vast education as far as earth experience, the progression of soul. So anytime you're trying to compare whatever you're doing, let the comparison go. But try to make better conscious decisions for what you're choosing to spend money on, especially as we're going into leaner times. I have no idea what this is going to look like. They say we'll go through some pain before we get to something that's reasonable. I don't know what that looks like. The other part to that is we can talk about all these things in deep esoteric understanding and astrological understanding, and yet when we're looking at the external world of form, that's still playing out however it's playing out by the level of consciousness or unconscious creators that are creating that reality. So I still feel like the next year and a half could be challenging. I also feel that we are going into, especially in Western cultures, we're taking back into a balancing act of what's necessary in the material world. And I have lived out that process of the last 20 years with Pluto and Capricorn squaring my existence. I can assure you that you don't need everything that you think you have in your life. And we are being taken into a place where I think we're going to go into a more global awareness of, do I really need that? And reprioritizing life. We're going to reprioritize our existence. We're going to reprioritize people, relationship, because as Neptune goes through Aries, Aries is the I am presence, it will be in opposition to Libra, which is everything other than us. That's going to be every other relationship you have. It doesn't matter who the person is, but it's also the other relationship to God, be all that is. So imagine that that's in Libra. Neptune is going to be in opposition to that. Oppositions don't have to be bad, but it does put you in a place where you have to look. The opposition energy can be challenging energies, but it can also just be something that says, look at me. And so we may have 14 years of look at me, but also look at myself as an aspect of presence of God. And so, and Neptune is the dream, but it's also the illusion and the delusion. So do we want to create more delusion with these new creations of 14 years, of Neptune going in with this new dream? Because Saturn of structure, again, is going to come in here in May and give whatever these dreams are, whether consciously or unconsciously creating, Saturn's going to give it structure. So take great care in what you are envisioning in your life. It's envision for a reason, vision, your eyes. What are you seeing in the world? But if you're seeing through deep distortion, then I humbly ask you to look again and try to create a higher vision. And then, of course, the articulation, careful what you say, you might get it. We have to take that great of care. And so, okay, I feel like that's probably satiated us as far as taking us into a deep awareness for what this energy is. We're about an hour and 40 minutes into stuff. It's 20 to 10. So, on that note, let's go ahead and go into group meditation so we can really shift this. And again, I really appreciate every single one of you that come on the call, because the more people we have on the call, I think the greater the energy that we have in creating the collective shift for each of us as a group. And I've said this before, and I always try to reiterate this too, because I feel it's really important. When Jude used to do the calls, she'd say she's working on us and this and that and whatever else, but I don't feel like I'm the one doing the work on you. All I'm doing is holding presence for our souls and spirit to come here and do this work together. And you're doing the work yourself. And in truth, it's really not work. It's more about shifting a frequency. And sometimes I think it's even that much more important to take that much care in articulating more specifically things like that. If we look at something as work, we're conditioned to think that work means doing something that's hard, or that we have to effort to get somewhere. And the truth is that that's not true. Because it really is no effort to go back into oneness, and it's no effort to go into stillness. It's no effort to release pain, to go clear the pain body. And as y'all know, I think almost everybody on the call has been in a call before, So, I mean, you're aware of, when we go in and do this type of stuff. But it's like sometimes when we're attempting to go in and release something that's been a painful event, a thought form, a feeling, an unprocessed emotion, whatever that is, sometimes I think that the mind holds us back, from being able to release some of those places where we get stuck. And let's see. I think someone may have just joined us, so if there's somebody new, we're just now going into the meditation part. So you've joined us perfectly in time for meditation. But yeah, it's kind of like we get to a place where it's almost like we become so exhausted from carrying the baggage of whatever it's been. And the more we can feel our way into those releases, the easier the journey is going to be. And in truth, it really isn't. It's not even a journey. At some point, we let go of the idea that there's some journey, because when you're only in immediacy, then there's no journey to get to anywhere. That's pretty powerful, isn't it? As I continually sit in those kinds of, revelations, I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, I'll hear something, but then I have to go sit in it, and then when I go in and let that settle in as an eternal truth, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then you can feel like a whole deep set of baggage. It just falls away. It just floats away. I mean, I think most everybody on the call has done sessions with Jude before. Maybe not. There might be one or two of you that haven't. But anyway, from a quantum level, when you go in and you work with someone that does, this level of soul work, and they take you in, and you feel like you're just trying to, feel into whatever it is. What's the blockage? What's the part where your mind doesn't want to release something? And then all of a sudden you feel like it releases, and you're like, oh my gosh, why did I hold that for so long? And I remember going, 2 or 3 years, and she's trying to get me into this place or that place, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we don't realize it. Another thing to note with that too, and this is really important. So, depending on where you are in this particular point of soul evolution, think about how the energy was at those particular times when we were working with Judith. The energy for each of those moments were unique to that moment, and that's always true. The frequency of today is not remotely what it was yesterday or last week, especially last year, or even 10 years ago. So the stuff that we've carried for eons of time, they also can just go away. So if others of you, like Andrea Wyman was talking about at the beginning of the call, if you're having these feelings come up where you may be perceiving like other lifetimes, you may have dreams. A lot of times these things do come in the dream sequences while you're asleep. And for those of you that I may not have talked to about dreams before, your dream state only it comes forth because your soul is eternal. When your physical body goes into a sleep, a rest state, the soul is continually going out through the cosmos, and it's still going in multidimensional expression, and it's feeling its way out with all the other souls. So if you have a lot of times when our dreams come through, there will be of, individuals, maybe we have some stuff that we're still working through in this lifetime. It could be somebody at work. It could be your family, friends, kids, whatever. But whatever's happening in the dream, it's there to bring attention to something. Now, everyone's always going to have a different way of dream interpretation. And there's been many, many, many hundreds of books written on dream interpretation. Like everything else, nothing's right and nothing's wrong. Everyone has a different value based on their projection of their learning of what they learned about what the dream means. For every person, you have to go into your heart and ask yourself, what does a dream mean? And the more open-hearted you are, and if you ask spirits, if you ask the unseen world to work with you, they will absolutely give you guidance, and you'll get knowing. It's a direct knowing that will come in through your heart, and it will just project itself into you and go, oh, that's what that was about. Every single person can do that. If you're not gaining clarity from a dream sequence that you're having, part of that's the block. There's something that you're still working with internally within the psyche that still is trying to be cleared and worked through. So the more that you can, again, let go of a preconceived notion of what you think something is, because more often than not, we are the reason why we are the blockage of life happening for us and to us. Because life's not happening to us, we are life. Life is a reflection of who we are in any given moment of time. And that's where you have to take full and total responsibility for the entirety of your creation. Don't go into judgment with it. But no matter what the disease pattern is, like for me right now, I've mentioned this for the last couple calls, I feel like my soul is just, it's exhausted. And part of it's attending everybody else that I've been doing. And I feel like I don't have any life force. That's a multidimensional thing that's happening. Part of it is the body is attempting to come online with just pure presence. And that's where we get the sustainable life force from. So as we're letting go of the old 3D life force, the way the old body works, we could go into a place where I don't know that my body will just stop. I don't think I'm going to stop breathing and start breathing one day, and it's going to be, a switch over between, breathing air, breathing adamantine particles. Because it's just everything just is. But at the same time, I do think it is a personal place where I'm at, where I have to decide how I take my power. And I've also talked about this too with regards to the entanglement. And as we go into this meditation, we're invited to feel into what has been the entanglement for each of us within respect to the people in our lives. How does the entanglement with our children affect our life force? How does the entanglement with our parents or grandparents affect our life force? That's the immediate family, aunts, uncles, what have you. People that you're in business with. Are you in business relationship with people? It could be just somebody you work with. How do those people affect you? Are they constantly diminishing who you are? Do they diminish your life force? Do you feel like that they are sucking on your energy field? And this is true for every single human being on the planet. That's the entanglement. And I've said this before, and it's really true. every human has an unconscious aspect of who they are. If you don't own the totality of who you are, you could be allowing an aspect of yourself to siphon off someone else's energy field. And you really want to make sure you clear yourself to not do that, even on an unconscious level. And again, if it's unconscious, you don't even know you're consciously doing it. But the ramifications of it, throughout your soul progression is going to diminish and take away from your frequency because you're siphoning on someone else's life force. So as these adamantine particles, as all of the solar flares hit us, through outer space from the sun and this breaking off, we're going through this divine purification. So let's actually start going into that. So if you, I'm sure most everybody is already seated. I mean, you already are familiar with these calls. If you're not, go ahead and get to a quiet space, another, maybe a recliner or your couch and lay out, or your bed, whatever makes you most comfortable, to go in and do this deep healing work. It says we're up to 21 people on the call. We haven't had that many in quite a while. That's awesome. I'm so appreciative to every one of you that chose to be on tonight because, and again, I'll say this. I mean, we're supporting each other in this work, and as I hope I'm supporting you guys and assisting you in shifting all this, you guys are also shifting me. I get as much from these sessions as you do because each one of us is supporting each other equally. Whether we're conscious of it or not, the fact that we choose to be in attendance, it means that we're consciously using our energy to come together for shifting and healing. And that's where we're taking our power. Every time we come together for these 2 weeks, each time, we're assisting each other. And obviously, I think you're all getting something from it because, we're obviously building up to this point. And I hope to build the call up to even more, people this year. I mean, we obviously send out this energy to everyone out too, because they don't have to be conscious of what's happening energetically. And we also, when we're doing it, we're not placing a value on the energy we're sending out. We're just blessing the entirety of the human experience. And as you send out that blessing, it has to come back to you. What you put in the world comes back to you. So as we go into these higher frequencies, we really don't have a choice but to be met with the highest creation back for our soul evolution. And that's going to happen through personal relationships. And I don't care how old you are. Like I've said, most people on the call, most of your older females, 60s and 70s, some are in the 50s. I guess the youngest of us may be 50, I think. But and the point, it really doesn't even matter about age. When we're going into this, we're really letting age go because the age isn't important. When you're just sitting in the depth of your own soul as a divine expression of presence, you're not looking at things from an age standpoint. Now, that doesn't mean you're not feeling it, the physicality of your body, and obviously you've had a soul progression, for 60, 70, 80 years, some of you in your 80s. At the same time, that's one reason you're able to go into a later aging capacity and not be hit by the energy necessarily as bad because you're doing the work. You're not holding on to the angers, resentments, and all these things. So, okay, let's get really still and just Just allow yourself to collapse. Just simply collapse for the next minute or two. So go in and feel into any place in your body that feels like it just doesn't feel right. If you have some part of yourself that's unsure of something, if you feel like there's just an uneasiness, it can be a simple thing even. Especially for those, that have done this work for a long time. You may be in a place now where you're working through deep refinement. It's like you feel like the bigger work has been done, but there's just small little places that you're still allowing Spirit to come in and dissolve and move that out. And this is perfect work to do here at this ending of the eclipse window. The eclipse has certainly brought up a lot of issues for people. It's brought up dynamics of relationships that just don't function for you anymore, that there's not a frequential match. It's like the energy of who you are and the energy of who they are, it just doesn't work anymore. So allow any and all distorted thought forms and patterns to come forth, and imagine that we're creating ourselves as a phoenix. So let's say that there's all this cosmic fire that's coming in, which is really true. For those of you that have not heard me articulate, these types of meditations before, I'm going to go ahead and articulate the way that I usually go in and work with this energy. But a lot of times I don't articulate and bring everybody in as far as the unseen world. But I'm going to do it in case you feel this works for you. So I always call in Mother, Father, God, which is the divine presence of the totality of our creator energy. As we have the nice chime. So I also call in every ascended master through infinite presence. So that would be all of those souls that have come in here and gone into deep, high mastery embodiment. All the souls that have come in and released any and all lower function to serve the highest of creation. I also bring in the entire archangelic kingdom. So it would be all of the archangels that have assisted humanity from the inception. And with the archangelic kingdom, then the seven mighty Elohim, the builders of form on planet Earth. They are the groups that actually assist us in like building form, like Saturn is form and structure. But the Elohim is the divine version of that. And then also the elemental kingdoms, which takes care of all of the elements. The water and the earth and the air and the fire kingdoms. Because all of those bring in the elements. Of course, you also have metal elements in the Chinese elemental systems. But I do ask for the totality of all of them. And then I also invite in Saint Germain and the Violet Flame for any and all transmutation, because the violet flame really is what's burning off everything that keeps us from going into the actual phoenix, to actually be able to come out the other end in our highest expression. I also bring in the Diamond Christ light, which basically is, my feeling of it, is all of the adamantine particles. Those are the deepest divine particleization that comes from Mother Father God that we use in creation. It's the electron kingdom, because we live in an electronic universe. And then I bring in the 12th golden ray. There are many different rays, but I bring in the 12th, and I'm not sure the why, but I always have. So it ain't broke, so don't fix it. Don't change it. So if you go in and consciously work and you ask for all this unseen world to come in and work with you, you have to be met. It certainly can't hurt. So when you're in this space and you have all of these infinite people and beings here, and of course, the masters all include Kuan Yin and Metatron, and there's a whole slew. But the point is that we're covering all the bases with regards to asking assistance, because we don't know what we don't know. As we ask for assistance in going in and clearing any and all distortion patterns within who we are now, we also ask that all of these distortions clear out through every single nanoparticle of our I am presence throughout the multiverse. Every single incarnation, every single time we came into presence, we can absolutely ask that we receive the grace of having all that cleared. Every time that we thought we knew better, we asked to have that cleared. And throughout every lifetime, that means Atlantis, it means Lemuria, it means the Aztec civilizations, it means the Mayan civilizations, it means the Egyptian times, it means the Sumerian times, it means the Babylonian times, every single existence. All the way back from the inception of humanity coming forth as a creation of Mother Father God. All the way completely before the fall of mankind. Do you feel how powerful that is in your core? Isn't it absolutely just brilliant, the amount of light that's coming in and working with your soul and spirit at this particular point of time? You know how much you've shifted so far, just in the year that we've been doing these calls, but also just within the last 3 to 4 calls, which has been the whole eclipse window. We are really coming in to a new homoluminous awareness. This is taking us back into pure crystalline structure. The old carbon-based reality is completely disintegrating in its old form. I humbly ask, on behalf of myself and every other human being on the planet, according to each individual soul contract, because you never want to override someone else's soul contract. But I ask for the highest potentiality of human expression and healing to come forth. And go in and take a deep breath. Just continually breathe deeply to breathe all of this in. Let us all take our power back. Let us ask that soul and spirit bring in the highest potentiality of divine expression, but let that energy come in so that we can embody it. And not just for the short term, but for eternity. Feel how Saint Germain and the violet flame is coming in and burning off any and all last particleization of the distortion, of any and all distortion that you've ever been in creation. That may seem like a big ask, huh? And yet what happens if we do ask it? What happens if we ask to be taken into the deepest grounded awareness of who we can be as divine expression? For me personally, I'm asking that soul and spirit can assist me in shifting the physicality within my third dimensional body to to be able to release any and all energy that no longer serves me, while also letting me ground all of this vast light that's coming in, the crystalline light, to be able to sustain me, so that I no longer feel like I am living in diminished life force. For each of you listening to the call, consider going in and articulating something for yourself that detailed. Don't make it so detailed that you limit God's expression, Mother, Father, God's capacity to come and meet you. But ask for a place where you can have so much deep divine healing that you can be here in total peace and serenity at any given point within your soul progression. As always, with all these calls, I never know what I'm going to say at any given moment of time. I just sit in the immediacy, and Spirit brings through whatever wants to be articulated by and for the group that's on the call at this particular moment, but also for any potential people that listen to the call whenever it's listened to at that particular time, which could be years from now. Breathe in as deeply as you can all of this wonderful and deep and healing adamantine particle energy, the diamond Christ light. Feel all of that breath going all the way to the core of your being. Feel it going to the center of your bones. Feel it going into the center of every organ within your body. Feel it going into the entirety of your musculature system, into all the fascia, muscles, all of those tissues that hold and carry the distorted emotional body, the mental and emotional anguish. Feel all of that going deeply into the blood and nourishing the blood and replenishing any and all distortion that's carried within the blood throughout all of your lifetimes. breathe in to allow all this healing energy to go all the way to the core of your neuromusculature systems, the neurosystems, all into the brain network, through the adrenal system, the lymphatic system. Feel all of this amazing healing adamantine particleization go into the atomic and subatomic levels of your skin. But not only limited to that, every single cell within your entire physical body. And let it also merge so completely with your etheric blueprint. So that it's completely lining up your physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and etheric bodies together. If any of you ever feel like the energy is too much, you absolutely have control, and you can just ask Spirit to regulate it and just pull it back. This is a lot of energy that can come in at any one time. As we're all amplifying the energy, it can be more overwhelming for some people that aren't used to that level of healing yet. But do know you're that powerful of a creator. You can absolutely go in and work with Spirit. We've just forgotten the depth and capacity of which we can really be co-creative in our own lives with regards to the energy fields. You may all feel the need to yawn and just release all of this deep energy that's been buried in your systems for so long. As we've also done in the past, if you feel like there's any part of your soul that is longing for something or feels like it's missing, let's put in a request to take you into, each of us, to the extent that we need, into deep soul retrieval. We'll lay permission for our souls to travel anywhere within the universe and cosmos that we need to go and re-meet that part of ourself that may have gotten lost and stuck somewhere else out there. You may feel all this energy internally. You may perceive it as being bloated. You could feel it, in some sense you might feel heavier, but as a general rule you would feel lighter. But if there's anything that you need to feel supportive of what's happening in your body, go in and attend that. If there's a part of you that's still carrying any script with regards to your family or your friends or place of business, employment, what have you, go in and ask that any and all distorted thought forms with regards to any and all relationships be released. Anything that keeps you in any type of enslavement. It doesn't mean that you have to walk away from being in relationship as long as it's a good, balanced energy dynamic. But we absolutely have the divine birthright to ask to be released from any and all relationship dynamics that use and abuse us or enslave in any shape, form, or fashion. As we continually release any and all old thought forms and old patterns of expression, we also want to be sure that when we bring in the new, we want to ground it. We're not leaving the physical body. We're here to embody all of this energy to the deepest of our capacity and our potentiality. These frequencies almost feel otherworldly, don't they? The meditation can take us so far out into cosmic awareness, but we don't want to stay just out there. We want to stay fully awake and present right here within our physical body, because that's what we came here to do. If you have family and friends and all the other people that are out there in the outer world of form that are still living in deep distortion patterns, that are in disease patterns, that are still processing emotional and mental anguish and hurt and what have you, we can certainly ask for the highest potentiality of shift for all of them to be able to be released from all of those distortions, but only according to their soul contracts, because we never want to take away from someone's hero journey and waking up for themselves. We certainly can ask on behalf of the soul, though, that the soul can release anything that's not pertinent to the soul journey, to assist it in alleviating all the distortion. We can also ask, not just for ourselves, but also for everyone else, that everyone may stay in the highest pristine awareness with regards to Neptune coming into Aries and creating the new collective dream. Certainly for ourselves individually, but also for our capacity to create anew and not from the old. This would be especially true for governmental and political dynamics and souls that are attempting to be released from control, greed, manipulation, and MK Ultra dynamics. And may we each ask individually and collectively that all of this amazing, powerful energy that's being given to us as healing be sent out to the world in its highest capacity, according and received accordingly by any and all individuals to their divine soul contracts. And may we all ask for the highest potentiality of divine partnerships, whatever form they may take. It may be partnering with regards to business relationships, partnering to step into our divine potential as far as assisting to heal humanity, the planet, the cosmos, whatever form that may take. It may be the highest potentiality in leading others with regards to a deeply reformed organizational, not necessarily using the word government, but an overseeing group for the various levels of community, whatever form that could take, so that not one huge group maintains a stranglehold over the control of the population and subpopulations within countries or states or cities or other communities. Any and all groups like that would merely be guidance from here on in the new earth. And that all inhabitants of the earth would be more heartfully resonant with what is with expressing themselves in ways which do not encroach on any other person's life form or create more distortions or anything against another human being on the planet. In truth, may every human come back into pristine divine awareness where they would never, ever, ever want to consider hurting another person physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually ever again throughout the entirety of humanity's existence. That's a big ask, huh? We can certainly request it. Imagine if 1 million or 10 million or 100 million or even 1 billion people heard that message. Were to be able to hear this particular call, would it have any meaning to them? And would it assist them in shifting their perception of reality and healing themselves to a place where they've no longer lived in distortion? Can you imagine creating a divine partnership for yourself where the other person is in such a high frequency just as you are in this particular moment of time, where they would just feel into you as immediacy? They would be able to perceive any and all aspects of who you are. There would be no separation. You could be in such complete sync with each other. That you just move in divine union and communion. It could be people you consult with, either through business or some assistance or community projects. It can also be your family. It can be friends. It may be a new romantic partner. It could be someone that you can create in the deepest amount of heartfelt connection that's been imaginable between two human beings ever. Can you imagine being so open, so heartfully available to another human being that there would be no need for any secret about anything? There would be nothing you could not share. Any and all distortions that you've ever carried, you could articulate them knowing that they're not who you are now, and that they would know that that's not who you are now. Creating partnerships where the form of communication would just be telepathically known. You would just look into each other's eyes and you would know in an instant what the other was thinking. We're already having so many moments of creation like that with relationships. Judith and I always carried that for the last 20 years. We were always psychically in sync. We could feel when the other was about to call. We could feel when the other needed something. We would just call each other and say, "Oh, I'm having a feeling of this." And the other would respond and say, "I was thinking exactly that." This is going to be the return to regularity and with regards to relationship on the planet. Part of that is Neptune going into Aries. Neptune is that psychic sense. Lilith going into Scorpio this year is going to represent pure divine feminine knowing. We've talked about how that would also be unearthing secrets in people's lives. But it also has to do with the deeper aspects of who we are through the scorpionic world. It is mental and it's an emotional, but from a deep heartfelt place. Scorpio is that place where we work through with sexually created energy. The sexual expression does not always take form just through physical sexual activity, but also through any and all creative aspects. What if humans could create partnership through sexual expression that went beyond the normal third-dimensional human expression? What if humans are about to re-remember just being in presence with someone, and the hearts become so interconnected and so intertwined that they go into deep awareness just being in proximity, and not even in proximity. You could go into deep, heartfelt love, union, and communion, even being across the world from each other. What if this is your divine birthright, and what if it's always been who we are at our core? I'm suggesting to you this is coming back online. This is divine union and communion with another soul. And this can happen with absolutely any soul. It doesn't have to be just between male and female entities. In truth, there's no separation between us and any other human expression on the planet. If every human has reached a place where they could clear out all of the identification, you could sit in union and communion with every single, let's say there are 8 billion people. You could literally sit in that with any person at any time if they were not in lower vibrational embodiment. So again, to keep this really open and to allow Spirit to bring us into alignment with our highest potentiality, let's create that. Let's not place a value on what it looks like. Let's ask for the highest potentiality of creation, of partnership, of any and all partnership. This indeed has been a very deep and vast healing evening for you. For each of you that have attended the call, and for anyone that attends this call at any particular point of time and later awareness, as long as it's kept up. Imagine if every human being were to listen to this type of transmission. And imagine that each human would allow themselves to be healed to the extent that's suggested within a call like this. What would the world look like? What if the world's already there and it's really quickly careening toward that as the normal expression rather than the distortion that's currently playing out? Every reality has already been created. It's a matter of where is your soul drawn. And as with every call, you just bless all of existence. And we can all be in deep gratitude for the fact that we have all continually chosen to come together and create the call and create the frequency, the healing frequency that's needed for any other person that will listen to the call at any given point along with their soul progression. As always, I'm in deep gratitude for everyone who's attended the call and participated with us. And you're invited to stay in this space as long as you would like. At some point, the call will go away, but I've been trying to leave the call going for longer periods of time to allow the frequency to be continued, and you can stay in that frequency longer. I leave the recording going for several minutes after I end the transmission, just so that whoever's deeply in meditation can continue to be supported when re-listening to the video call later. Again, infinite deep gratitude and blessings and cosmic love to every single person that has been in attendance with the call and will listen to it at any given point of time. And until next time, Om Shanti.